Okay, we're here this morning with Dr. Daniel, and he is doing a lesson on Black Wall Street.
I'm just admitting some people, some latecomers who are coming into the online classroom. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Everybody's doing okay?
Yes.
You guys, I'm just gonna take down my mask a little bit. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, over the last couple of days, actually, maybe weeks, okay, something very horrific was discovered, okay? And for everybody at home, everybody at home, can you hear me as well? No. Something very horrific was discovered, okay? And it was a 2-day event that happened, okay? And it was called the Tulsa Race Riots or the Black Wall Street Massacre, okay? Has anybody here ever heard of that?
No.
You have heard of it.
Yeah.
What have you heard of it?
I've heard that it was basically in Tulsa, it was where black where basically black people found their place to be rich and wealthy.
Excellent. So yeah, so that's a part of it. Yep. So like I said, what do you guys know about the Black Wall Street Massacre? And we had somebody answer where this is where black people came together. So in the late 1900s, we had a number of African Americans who decided they were going to flee. They wanted to flee all the prejudice and injustices that were going on in the southern states. So what they decided to do is they decided to go to Oklahoma, okay? And everybody knows where Oklahoma is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they went to an area called the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, okay? And what happened was, in around 1921, they had about 10,000 African Americans living in Greenwood. And the people who lived in Greenwood, the African Americans, they were extremely influential people, okay? When I say extremely influential, I mean extremely influential, okay? And we're gonna see that. So, what had happened was these African Americans, they moved to Greenwood, and what they did was they decided to build businesses. They built their own community, okay? And they were all doctors, lawyers, dentists. They were clergy. It was a whole group of people who built and flourished and became extremely, extremely rich people, okay? Thus, the term came to be where they started calling it what they called the Black Wall Street. Okay, do you guys kind of understand where that term comes from? Like what the idea behind the Black Wall Street? Everybody knows what happens on Wall Street, right? Yeah. What is Wall Street? Down in Manhattan. What happens down there? There's a lot of what? Money. There's a lot of money. Okay? This place, Greenwood, okay, in Tulsa, was also a lot of money. The people, the residents of Greenwood knew how to make money. They made money. They opened up grocery stores, pharmacies, everything, all on their own. It was all self-funded, okay? All self-funded, all right? And what they wanted was they wanted to continue with their economic growth and with their their quiet lives that they were having and that they were enjoying and that they actually loved. That it was really they had really developed this really great area. Okay. So what happened? Why this massacre? And where did it come from? Okay. On May 30th, in 1921, a young man, his name was Dick Rollins. He was an African American man. Okay. He happened to step into an elevator. Okay. He walked into an elevator, the elevator door shut. There was a young woman in there, a white woman, who was operating the elevator, okay? And she happened to scream. She just screamed, okay? The elevator doors open, okay? Mr. Rowland came out of the elevator, and apparently he left, okay? He left, he went home. The elevator operator's name was Sarah Page, and she basically said that nothing had happened, okay? Now, there was a store clerk who said something did happen, okay? That an assault took place. But that was based on that person's word, okay? So you have Miss Page who said nothing happened. The man, Mr. Rowland, tripped in the elevator. She got nervous and yelled, okay? The doors open, he left. The very next day, the Tulsa Tribune, which was one of 2 newspapers in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time, printed a story across the headlines, okay, that said Afro-American man raped and assaulted a woman and should be jailed, okay? So the police department went out looking for him. They arrested him and they brought him to jail. The townspeople began getting the newspaper as you wake up in the morning and you start, getting your newspaper together and you start realizing, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why is this man being, prosecuted for something that we don't know anything about? So right away, we had a lot of people that basically started congregating around the jail, both white and black people around the jail where Mr. Rowland was being held, okay? And obviously one group was for executing him and one group was for not executing him, okay? Without enough evidence or without any evidence at all, you couldn't really execute him, right? So, the woman, like I said, didn't want to press any charges. She said nothing happened as well. Remember that, okay? So both groups got together. You had the African Americans who said this man should be freed. You had the white people who said no, he shouldn't be. He did something to this girl, based upon the clerk's witness of what she saw. Some say, because people had guns and everything when they were there, some say that a shot was either accidentally or not accidentally went off and hit an African American man, okay? And this began this war, so to speak, or this massacre over a 2-day period. We were fighting battles. The police came, the National Guard, the townspeople, people from all over the place actually came in and stormed the town to try to really help with this massacre, but they didn't help with this massacre, okay? What they did do was they basically destroyed the entire Greenwood, okay? This beautiful neighborhood that they had built, the African Americans over time, okay? And what happened was things just got out of hand, as they do very rapidly, as we can see even today. 1,400 businesses were burned to the ground, okay? You had 10,000 people about were left homeless. And the official death toll, which they're not really sure, says that there were 10 white people and there were 26 African Americans. But experts are saying that the death toll was around 300 people, okay? It was more around 300 African Americans, okay? Which were killed, okay? So this battle went on. The man, Dick Rowland, kind of went away. Nothing happened to him because he didn't do anything, okay? The girl apparently went away. Some even speculated that the two of them, it wasn't even a true story. They don't know. Anyhow, what we do know is that this very nasty racial attack happened, and it should never have happened. Okay? And we do know that the people that were there, that were living in this town, this is exactly what they didn't want. Okay? They didn't want this type of injustice. Even the sheriff of the town, they didn't want this problem. He didn't want this problem. He said, we don't want this here. We don't want these type of problems here. We want to keep this a beautiful area. It was one of the most beautiful areas, apparently, in the United States at the time. Okay? So in 2009, which is about 80 years later, they created what's called the Reconciliation Park in 2009, and it contains the Hope Plaza and the Tower of Reconciliation. And the Hope Plaza basically shows pictures of the massacre from 1921, and it's shown in 3 bronze statues. So they made very, very pretty bronze statues to commemorate those who were lost during this 1 to 2 day massacre, okay? So, yesterday, this was a very big thing. Yesterday, Memorial Day, President Biden signed a proclamation declaring the Day of Remembrance, okay, on yesterday, which was May 31st, 2021, for the Tulsa Race Massacre. So every year hereafter, we will celebrate and we will remember those who were executed in the Tulsa Massacre because they should never have been. Yes?
So just for one lie of 400 people died on September 15th.
Yep, and not only that, they hid it. Nobody knew up until just recently that this happened. Okay, there's 3 people, they name them right here. Viola Fletcher, Hughes Van Ellis, and Leslie Benningfield Randall, okay? There are 3 people who are still alive from that point, but they're about 100 years old. They're very old people. Yes, to this day. Yep, this is very, very old, and they were there yesterday when President Biden went to Tulsa to do the proclamation, and they were there, and they brought them out, and they spoke. Another really nice thing, besides the proclamation, which is very important to recognize this, is the Greenwood Rising, which is a museum that's being built in honor of the massacre, the Tulsa Race Massacre, or what they call the Black Wall Street Massacre. Okay? Very sad. You know, how do you really, how do you really justify something like this? You know what I mean? How do you justify something like this? You know, you really can't justify it, and it's like, you can't really make people want to or feel better because we signed the proclamation, right? Or because we're building a museum, because that doesn't account for all these poor lives that were lost over something so silly that a woman just made a noise in an elevator because the guy tripped. Okay? That was it. The guy tripped, the woman made a noise. That was all they had, the evidence. That was it. And that set off this crazy attack on Greenwood.
Which, someone like reporting and then it just happened, like the attack.
So what happened was there was a store clerk who claims, but then disappeared, never was to be found again, that they observed Mr. Rowland assaulting the elevator operator and then running away. Okay? But the elevator operator claimed that nothing ever happened, and that she did not want to press charges against him because he didn't do anything. He did nothing to her at all. Not one bit. Nothing. So here's what I want to show you guys. I found a really neat video that kind of depicts a little bit of what I said. And then I'm going to ask you guys some questions. It's going to be like Kahoot because I couldn't get my Kahoot up and running. So I'm going to ask you the questions that I have in Kahoot. So here we go. Here's the video for you guys. It's about 2 minutes long or so.
In the late 1800s and early 1900s, many African Americans moved to Oklahoma to get away from the racism and prejudice of the southern United States. For a chance to start over in a more friendly place, African Americans came by wagon, horse, train, and on foot to settle in the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, in an area called the Greenwood District. By 1921, Greenwood had become a successful district for African Americans. No whites lived there or did business in the area. Around 10,000 blacks had homes in Greenwood. The businesses owned and ran by African Americans were very successful. Wealthy African American businessmen, doctors, lawyers, realtors, and other professionals called the Greenwood District home. Banks, churches, stores, newspaper publishers, hotels, theaters, a post office, libraries, schools, and airports thrived in the area. Greenwood was the wealthiest black community in the United States.
I just want to stop this for a second too. Just to let you guys know, remember, the African Americans, built all this stuff on their own. No help from the government, no help from anybody. Okay? They built this and they made this town on their own. Okay? No nothing. This was all on their own.
States. It earned the title Black Wall Street, a name given to mimic the United States financial district in New York City named Wall Street. Late in the month of May 1921, an African American by the name of Dick Rowland was accused of attacking a white female elevator operator. He was later cleared of the crime, but not before the newspaper, the Tulsa Tribune, published a story about the accused attack. On May 31st, an angry mob of white men armed with guns decided to kill Dick Rowland when he was released from jail. A group of African American men heard of this plan and also went to the jail to protect Dick. An argument started between the two groups and a gun went off. This started a violent riot. Whites flooded into Greenwood with the intent of destroying it and killing African American men, women, and children. On June 1st, military troops were brought to Greenwood to stop the violence, but by then, 1,000 African American businesses and homes were wiped out. The American Red Cross estimated that over 300 people were killed and 35 city blocks were destroyed by fire. The Tulsa race riot was the worst riot over the issue of blacks and whites in the history of the United States. After the riot, Greenwood was rebuilt 5 years later and became a famous place for jazz and blues music in the late 1920s. For many years, the details of the Tulsa race riot were kept out of the history books, but in the early 2000s, a study revealed the facts. In honor of those affected by the violence, scholarships have been given to the descendants of the African Americans who survived the riot, and memorials have been built to honor those who were killed.
Okay, so I'm going to pause that. And I know this is a very, very, very strong topic, right? This is a very, very tough thing to hear, isn't it? You all say yes. Do we have any questions so far? We have no questions on this whatsoever. You guys do realize and you understand what happened, right? It was hidden from us. Yes, it was hidden from us all for a very long time, and it just recently came out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is instead of playing Kahoot the old way, we're going to do it this way. Now, let me just go here to my online people. Can everybody hear me at home? Can you guys give me a thumbs up? You can hear me at home? Anybody? Anybody? Anybody?
I think Josh was doing it what his background is.
Yeah. Okay. So, as long as you guys can hear me. So here it is. Here are the questions, okay? So, First question. Where did African Americans move to escape racism in late 18 and early 1900s? Where was it? Close. You're right there. What is it? Say it one more time. Try one more time. So try it. Okay, come on. Glenwood. It's very close. Greenwood. Somebody said in the back was excellent. Perfect try. So we get 2 out of 2. 2 out of 2. Okay. Next question. Who was the Greenwood District home to? Who was it home to? Well, just think of everybody that was there. Okay, that were very. They were, yep, and they were very rich and wealthy and
Powerful.
they were all looking for affluence, yes. They were all looking for the same thing, which was peace, happiness, and quiet, right? So the Tulsa Tribune printed a story that claimed Dick Rowland tried to attack Sarah Page. True or false?
False. Wait, that.
Correct. Remember the morning of the attack, the Tribune, they presented, remember the paper, everybody started reading it, and then they ran to the jail to see, what was happening. Okay. The Tulsa Race Massacre took place on May 31st and June 1st, 1921. True or false?
True.
Excellent. Do you guys remember the name of the park that was open? We spoke about it. What was the name of the park?
It was something like that. Does it start with a G?
Okay, go ahead. Please take a try.
Greenwood?
Not Greenwood.
Oh, no.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Quickly, very quickly, because we're trying to.
Glenwood? Oh, no.
Reconciliation Park. Reconciliation Park. Okay, so we kind of, I want to wrap it up because we're running a little short in time. You guys did excellent. I give you guys a round of applause. Everybody, take a round of applause. Hopefully you guys, you learned something today that you didn't know, that many of us didn't know, and that you realize that this was something that was tragic and horrific. And really, how do you fix this? No proclamation or amount of money could fix something like this, right? So what we do is we keep people in mind and we try to remember and just, know that these things need to be repaired in our country, correct? Yes.
From one lie can start a big problem. From one lie can start a big problem.
Yes, yeah, one lie can start all over the place, okay? And in relationships, and in friendships, and in something like this. There are people, who are wrongly accused of things all the time. There are men, boyfriend and girlfriends who break up because of lies. There's all different kinds of stuff. Every stuff happens, things happen. Was anybody affected by this personally?
No.
Okay. Do you guys? Oh, I just want to make sure you're okay. It's a touchy subject. It's not easy to swallow. It's a lot to hear. So I believe that we're good, and hopefully you guys remember the Wall Street, the Black Wall Street Massacre or the Tulsa Massacre, and you learned a little bit today. Thank you everybody for coming, and have a wonderful day. Bye everybody. Hope to see you guys soon. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Home.